Monday, 30th of March 2020, day 5 of COVID quarantine here in New Zealand. Welcome. Yesterday I didn't post a video and I do apologize to you. In the morning my young son Lars took me for a training, and between a flu shot I had 2-3 days before and my physical unfitness, he truly handed me my balls on a platter. So I was pretty wiped out for the rest of the day, and it was a very, very interesting lesson to learn for me. As so many times, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, and in this case I was reminded that without physical fitness you will not get very far. But what I want to talk tonight about is, yes, physical fitness is very important, but it's the mental toughness, the mental resilience that many of us struggle with, and in the absence of which many of us are then moving over to alcohol, to drugs, to gambling, to sex, to pornography, to you name it, any kind of these distractions that give you that temporary mental numbness and the escapism from your pain, that you just want to forget about everything out there. It was amazing for me how tired I was and that I was struggled with the circuit training, keeping in mind that in my life I've again and again and again proven how resilient I can be if I put my head to it. I want to tell you a story about a worker in Germany in the 1970s. True story. I want you to learn from it and think about your own life if you would have the mental endurance to deal with what happened to the guy. It was Friday afternoon and it was a big weekend. It was the finals of the football in Germany and everyone was geared up to watch the final game soon after work was finished. So everyone rushed and to get home, and that included the workplace where he worked, which was a freezing works. So they had just received a truckload of, I think it was venison halves, and he basically, with other workers, carried them into the freezing works, and the aim was get them all in there as quick as possible, and then we all go home. Now it was the 70s. Occupational health and safety, yeah, about that. So here he was, grabbed the last venison half and run into the freezing works and dropped it down outside already. Motors were starting and engines starting. The truck was rushing off, lots of noise, and suddenly, boom, the door closed. There was a time when there were no safety features in that particular warehouse, and the guy with horror realized that there was no way of opening the freezer door from the inside. So round about 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, he found himself in that predicament. And of course he did what everyone else would normally do. He screamed and shouted and hollered and kicked the door, etc. And nothing helped. Outside people were already on their way or were gone. No one heard him. After about half an hour, he realized he is seriously in trouble. So his brain started thinking. And he thought, first of all, let's stop the cold. So he figured out where the cold was coming in, and he took some of the frozen produce that was in the warehouse, climbed up, made himself basically a ladder, and climbed up to the corner where the refrigeration unit was, and basically slammed it and broke a vent in such a way that the whole thing didn't work anymore, and he had physically actually stopped the cold coming in. But these warehouses are completely insulated. There was The temperature in there was in the minuses, and there was no chance that he would anyhow warm up in there. So he said, okay, fair enough. He knew that air would insulate him, so he ripped off the cardboard from some of the produce and built himself a little igloo, so to speak, out of cardboard, and tried to crawl in there and try to make himself an A-frame, a shelter. And within half an hour, he knew that this would be his last night if he was to indeed just lie there. What he also realized at that moment was that whilst he was actually trying to kill the refrigeration unit, he was actually reasonably warm. And it was only once he stopped working that he started getting cold, and unfortunately he had some thin gloves on, just enough to hold the cold away when he was carrying the venison halves. And he didn't have much on, in other words, so certainly he would have not survived. But he realized he was warm whilst he was working. So the man started to build himself a pyramid of the frozen wares on one side, and kept working. Once he had built the pyramid, he then started to take the goods from that side and brought it to the other side of the warehouse, where he built another pyramid. And he kept going. And he kept going. It was a long weekend. Saturday, Sunday, no one was working there in the freezing works. Monday morning arrived, and the first worker came and opened the door to the freezing works. And there was this man, crawling by now on his hands and feet, pushing a frozen piece of whatever in front of him, completely in his own world, and kept going. So he had not stopped, he had not slept. There was very little to drink, to eat. He just kept going and kept going. And that is what kept him alive. That's a true story. And one wonders what was going through the mind of this man. Those of you who have been in the army, those of you who have been even in through special forces selection, you know that sleep deprivation and ongoing physical exercise is part and parcel of all that. And to a certain degree, being a young doctor in the 80s was not necessarily so different. You just kept working. None of that 8-hour shift. We had 48 hours and 72-hour shifts. Even then later on in the 90s, we had 24-hour on, 24-hour off shifts. And there were many times that you worked literally 24 hours non-stop. We don't need to go into the mistake rate and what really happens to your attention span, etc. And you and I know that you probably are not the nicest person after 16 hours, 24 hours non-stop. But it was what it was. These were the past. So I've proven myself again and again that I can persevere. Yet I found myself struggling out there in the circuit with my son. Later on in the day, it was other way around. The roles were reversed, because I have got a mean endurance when it comes to mental things. So when it comes to writing a book, or when it comes to creating something or doing work, I'm just a machine. I can keep going like the proverbial Energizer bunny. I guess the lesson of all that is you need to figure out the why you're doing things, and then you need to put your whole mind to it. And once you have figured out your why and have the determination, then do not give up. When you think you're at the end, when you think you've done it, you've had it, there's no way you can continue. In a physical sense, you're only at about 40%. You can keep pushing and pushing and pushing. When it came to the circuit training, I didn't have it in me. Yet, every single day when I'm at work or when I'm doing mental tasks, I can do it. So yesterday I identified my physical weakness as something that I need to work on. But I know it's the 40% rule. When I think I've had it, I can't do any more, then there is so much more room to work. And I want to remind you on that. You might think, no, I've had enough and enough is enough. And it might be that your body says, look, give me a break. And you might have been burning the candle on all ends. Then it's absolutely fair. You need to look after yourself. But there are other times when you just want to give up because it's the easier way and just everything is too much. And then I want to encourage you. I want to tell you that there is more in you, far more. I want to tell you, never give up. Keep going, because you can. But you need to find a direction and you need to know why you're going down that route. You can't just keep going and then realize, well, actually, I've been walking into the wrong distance or the wrong direction. Great. Now, figure out what's your why and then figure out the how you get there. Because this is your life. Live your life to the fullest. And that's exactly what I'm writing about in Never Boring, in the book that is soon being released. Think about it. What do you really want in your life? And then take no prisoners. Just go for it. Every day, make a conscious decision that you go hard out into that direction, that you create your future. No one will do that for you. You have to create it yourself and be there with all your heart, be there with all your brain and make your life come true. You only have got one life. You might as well make the most out of it and make it your life, not the life that other people want you to live or that other people think you should live. Forget other people. What is it that you want? And then stop dreaming. Turn this dream into a vision and work on that vision until it becomes reality. And once it is reality, then take the next dream, and so on, and so on. Don't take no for an answer. Don't believe in the tall poppy syndrome. Yes, a lot of people want to shoot you down, but yeah, that's them. That's typically those people who are unable to make it. They will have the most reasons to tell you why you can't do it. You can do it. Put your mind to it, put your heart to it, and step by step, you will succeed. For me, that means after this recording, I will go out there and again try that stupid circuit training until I'm better at it and until I don't fail as easily. I deserve to give it a better shot. I deserve a better body. So for me, that is where I need to work on. Whilst my son needs to work on other parts in his life. So does my wife, so does my other son. We have got weaknesses. We all have got spots that we need to work on. It's just a matter of identifying them and work on them. Okay. So look after yourself. Speak to you tomorrow.